For 16 years, broadcaster Harry Carey was the voice of the Chicago Cubs. He wasn't in Yogi Berra's league, linguistically. Harry Carey could turn a phrase. "Holy cow" was one of Harry Carey's signature lines. Another legendary Harry Carey line that made every Cub fan jump for joy was, "It might be, it could be, it's a home run." Harry Carey loved baseball. He loved Chicago. He loved the Cubs. But most of all, he loved the Cub fans, those generations of fans who packed Wrigley Field every year, almost certain that their team would lose, but hoping for a miracle. Harry Carey once said of the citizens of Cubs Nation, and I quote, "This has been the remarkable thing about fans in Chicago. They keep drawing an average of 1.3 million a year, and when the season's over, they've won their usual 71 games. You feel those fans deserve a medal," Harry said. Well, Harry Carey passed away in 1998. But like every Cubs fan, he believed until his final breath that the Chicago Cubs, those lovable losers, would one day reclaim the title as Major League Baseball's World Series champions, a title they held and won in 1908. Well, Mr. President, Harry Carey was right. The day came. Miraculously, in the early morning hours of November 3rd, in the 10th inning of the 7th and deciding game against the gritty, formidable Cleveland Indians, the Chicago Cubs won the 2016 World Series. That heart-stopping Game 7, in fact, the whole series, was a contest for the ages and one the Cub fans will be talking about for generations. Let me say it again. The Cubs' improbable come-from-behind World Series championship marks the first time since 1908 that the Cubs won the series. Their 108-year drought without a World Series trophy marked the longest losing streak of any team in any sport in the United States of America. But all those years of dashed hopes and deferred dreams are history. The curse of the billy goat, the omen of the black cat, all dead. Fly the W, hoist the trophy. The 2016 Chicago Cubs are the World Series champs, the very best in baseball. They posted the winningest record in Major League Baseball with 103 victories to 58 losses, and they finished 17 and a half games ahead in their division, ahead of the St. Louis Cardinals, always a formidable baseball team. It was the first time the Cubs had posted the most wins in baseball since 1945, and the first time the Northsiders had won 100 games since 1935. In postseason play, the Cubs launched a ninth-inning comeback to take the National League Division Series against the Giants in 4 games. Then it was the Dodgers. After losing in back-to-back shutouts and trailing the Dodgers 2-1 in the series, the Cubs rallied to beat the Dodgers in 6 games and claim their first National League championship in 71 years. For generations, the World Series has broken many a Cub fan's heart. After winning the Fall Classic in 1907 and 1908, the Cubs went on to lose the World Series in 1910, 1918, 1929, 1932, 1935, 1938, and 1945, their last World Series appearance until this year. And yet, against history and against reason, as the 2016 World Series began, Cub fans dared to believe maybe this was the year. Their faith was tested. The Cleveland Indians are a great and gutsy ball club. They took it early and commanding control of the series, leading the Cubs 3-1 in the best-of-7. Then the magic started. With their backs to the wall, 1 defeat away from elimination, the Cubs roared back to win the final 3 games of the series and brought the World Series trophy home to Chicago. They clinched the series in Game 7 with an 8-7 win in extra innings. The game was tied 6-6 after 9 innings. The suspense was heightened by a rain delay that was called just as the 10th inning was about to start. The rain stopped the game for 17 minutes. The Cubs scored 2 runs when they came back in the top of the 10th on a double by Ben Zobrist and a single by Miguel Montero. The Indians scored a run in the bottom of the 10th, but it wasn't enough. The final score, Cubs 8, Indians 7. Ben Zobrist was named World Series MVP. It was only the 6th time in World Series history that a team had come back from a deficit of 3 games to win a championship. The last team to pull it off, the Kansas City Royals, 1985. This World Series victory was truly a team victory. Every member of the team and the organization deserves credit. Cubs general manager Theo Epstein destined for the Baseball Hall of Fame, arrived in Chicago in 2011 with the challenge of rebuilding an organization that had tried everything to no avail. It took him 5 seasons, 3 managers, and dozens of trades, but he won. He said after Game 7, he was just proud to bring the World Series trophy back to Chicago. For Cubs legends Billy Williams and the late Ernie Banks and Ron Santo, and for the generations of fans who never stop hoping. And what can we say about Cubs manager Joe Maddon? He urged his players in spring training to embrace the target. When the chips were down, he never doubted the Cubs were the finest team. And while some may view his style as unorthodox, his confidence in his players carried over onto the field. The Cubs never panicked. They got their job done. Maddon spent decades in Major League Baseball before coming to the Cubs. With this World Series trophy, he joins a small list of managers to win it in the American and National Leagues. He earned the 2015 National League Manager of the Year, and I'm betting he's going to claim the title again this year. I want to congratulate the players on the world champion Chicago Cubs. And at this point, I'd like to enter their names into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. I'm going to wrap up. I see that the majority leader's on the floor, but I know he's a big sports fan. Catcher David Ross played in the final game of his career, made history when he had a home run in the 5th inning of Game 7 to give the Chicago Cubs a 6-3 lead. At 39 years of age, almost 40, senior by baseball standards, Ross became the oldest player ever to hit a home run in World Series Game 7. And Kyle Schwarber, what a comeback. Tore his ACL in the 3rd game of the season, worked his whole season in physical rehab to try to come back, made it just in time to play in the World Series. He ignited the Cubs' 10th inning rally in Game 7 with a leadoff single and finished the series with a .412 average and 2 RBIs. And then there's Ben Zobrist, the pride of Eureka, Illinois, the MVP of 2016. I want to also congratulate the Cleveland Indians manager, Terry Francona, and their entire organization, and one of their best and most loyal fans, Senator Sherrod Brown. As Terry Francona said after Game 7, they tried until there was nothing left. The epicenter of Cubs Nation is on the north side of Chicago, but it's much bigger. It reaches across America. Cubs Nation has fans in every city. Probably the most amazing parade I've ever attended, and I've been to hundreds, was the Cubs Victory Parade. They estimate the crowd at 5 million. And I'll tell you what, I think they're right. The population of the city of Chicago is 2.5 million, just to give you an idea of how many they drew. I'll close with a short story. 108 years between World Series victories brought much heartache to the Cub Nation, but there was joy after the drought. Quite a bit of that joy was listening to the legendary broadcaster who preceded Harry Carey as the voice of the Cubs. His name was Jack Brickhauser, just Brick to his friends. Born in Peoria, was the first voice of the Cubs, play-by-play announcer until 1981. He called games for the White Sox, the Bears, and the Bulls. No wonder he's both in the Baseball and the Broadcasters Hall of Fame. On May 12, 1970, he was in the broadcaster's booth when Mr. Cub, the great Ernie Banks, reached a milestone few players ever achieve. Pat Jarvis was pitching for the Braves, and this is how Brickhouse called the play. Jarvis fires away. That's a fly ball deep to left. Back, hey, hey. Ernie Banks got number 500. Everybody on your feet, this is it. And then Jack Brickhouse added his signature refrain, "We." When the Cubs won this World Series, I suspect up in heaven, Brickhouse, Carey, Banks, Santo, and countless other Cubs players joined those fans who've been waiting for that World Series for 108 years. At long last, the Cubs are baseball's real champions.